All right, what is going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part. I'm early, 7:59. I want credit for coming on at 7:59 because damn if I come on at 8:01, everybody lets me know. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show, the Sliwa show here on Hoops Talk. All right, we are Friday, August 15th. Time is flying, my people. Time is flying, and before you know it, next season is going to start. And before you know it, we'll obviously be breaking down games. So we're not too far from that. I mean, if you start looking at look at preseason and everything else, we're really not too far from that. If you guys don't mind, please subscribe to the channel. Would greatly appreciate that. Appreciate the support of the channel. Thank you to everybody that's been MVP members. Thank you to everybody that's just here on a consistent basis every single morning. So thank you very much for doing that. Let me give everyone a quick rundown of what we got going on for the show today. So we'll obviously continue to talk some hoops. Got a few different topics that I'm going to have. Got a great guest that's going to join the show as well, someone you guys know very well. So we'll have a busy Friday, and then we're going to take a little time off. I know. People are like, I feel like now that, on a solo venture, if you take time off, people are just like, no, you can't take time off. I'm like, yeah, but I need time off. We'll talk a little bit about that towards the end of the show, but definitely going to be taking some time off in the month of August. We'll talk about that as well. All right, let me do this. Let me just take a look at a couple quick comments here, see what everybody's doing. By the way, cheers to everybody there. Cheers to everybody enjoying their cup of coffee this morning or whatever you got going on this morning. Let's see what we got here. Good morning, Sliwa. Went to a little coffee shop here in LA called Starbucks. I went to a small, very small coffee shop. I don't think they're going to make it. If I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not sure if Starbucks, I don't know if they have enough locations to make it. Is Starbucks the only place where you can have a Starbucks and then across the street have another Starbucks and both of them are thriving? It's come to the point with Starbucks. It's like, well, we'll just take care of cars on the right side of the lane. And then that Starbucks across the street will just take care of cars on the left side of the lane. It's like, yeah, I think they're probably the only business that can do that. All right, let me get a quick quote in here. Every night we go to sleep without a guarantee of living tomorrow, yet we still set an alarm to wake up. That is hope. Thank you, Ocean Breeze. You're a good man, my brother. Thank you for always coming on here. Thank you for coming on here. I appreciate you doing that and always putting those quotes up there. All right, let me let's give everyone a quick rundown of the show. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate you, brother. Let me give everyone a quick rundown of the show, and then we'll get the show started. Yesterday, Lakers schedule released. I'll spend a little time breaking it down. Mike Trudell. I mean, I don't know if you guys go on his X. Trudell does a breakdown like a post-game show. I mean, just a phenomenal breakdown. So a couple good nuggets that we can take from the schedule. I want to just walk through some kind of key dates on the schedule, some matchups I'm really looking forward to. I think the Lakers have, I tweeted it out yesterday, 30 plus, maybe 37. I'm forgetting here off the top of my head. I want to say 37 nationally televised games. So that gives you kind of a little bit of an idea. 37 nationally televised games. And we'll get like I said, we'll get into the schedule a little bit and go from there. Pat Riley statue, man, I was so excited when I saw this because I think a lot of times, we've obviously paid attention to what players deserve a statue, who's going to come next. What are they going to do? Will LeBron get a statue? And that's its own conversation in its own right. So I think the fact that I saw that Pat Riley's getting a statue, I just think that's so cool. I really do. And I want to spend some time on it. Who's next will be a conversation because I think that's a fair conversation to have. Who else deserves it? Who else should get one? Of course, if you're going to give Pat Riley a statue, then tell me you're already identifying where Phil Jackson's going to get his statue. So we'll hit into that a little bit. Trevor Lane's going to come on in about 10 minutes. So he's going to spend most of the show with me today as we do the show here on a Friday. Couple things on Austin Reaves' contract. I heard Jovan Buha yesterday, who was on Spectrum Sportsnet with Ali Clifton, Mike Bresnahan. So good crew right there. They were talking a little bit about Austin Reaves, and he had said something to the effect that Austin Reaves wants to be a Laker for life. Okay, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? How would everyone feel? What has to happen for Austin Reaves to be a Laker that's making $30+ million, and everybody's like, "Yep, that makes sense." Because that's not the feel that I've got from a lot of Laker fans, certainly over these last couple of months. And I don't think I agree with Laker fans in this one. I think he's definitely worth $30 million, and I think you should re-sign him. Now, that doesn't mean that he should be a Laker for life. It just means that have control over him, have a contract, and then, kind of figure out what this next year looks like before thinking how much of a long-term view that's going to be. A lot of that's also going to depend on Bron and what his outlook is as well. Speaking of outlooks, West outlook, I'll talk to Trevor Lane a little bit about the Western Conference games that we think, teams that we think. Where are the Lakers in the West? Kind of where do they, now that it seems like everything is unfolded, where are they? We'll take a quick look at the Eastern Conference as well. We'll do a weekend preview, which is probably going to be just more dedicated towards baseball. Won't be long, trust me. I mean, I've said this before. What I want this channel to be is just primarily basketball and NBA. Obviously with a lot on the Lakers side of things, but we'll do a quick little weekend preview and then go from there. Obviously some big games coming up in the NL West, and then we'll call it a week. So we're going to actually call it longer than a week. Taking some time off. I'm going to take some time off here. Listen, this is my window. If I don't do it now, then I'm not going to have a window to do it. So appreciate you guys hanging out here for the show. All right, let's get the show started. Schedule came out yesterday, and there is, there's a lot of things that we can look at from the schedule, and nothing's going to be earth-shattering. I think one of the things that's different in the NBA, let's say compared to the NFL. All right, in the NFL, you only play, X amount of games a year, so you're not playing every team. So there is a curiosity who's on your schedule, who's not. That's outside of your division or whatever the case is. In the NBA, you're playing the same teams over and over again. So it's not like, there's anything, oh my God, they're playing the Warriors 4 times this year. No, we already know that, my gosh, they got the Knicks at New York. Yeah, they do that every year. So there isn't anything from that perspective to really break down. Let me get through the technicalities here real quick of the schedule. And Mike Trudell put this out there, so I want to kind of point this out here real quick. Here's what he said. The toughest, this is just a couple nuggets here. I mentioned 37 nationally televised games. The Lakers play 48% of their games on the weekend days, including 8 on Friday and 9 on Sunday. So almost 50% of your games are going to be played between Friday and Sunday. This is an interesting one for what it's worth. The team will fly about 43,000 miles this season, down from 44,000 miles last year. So anyways, it gives you just kind of an idea what the travel looks like. If I had Michael Thompson on the show and Michael Thompson, I was telling him about travel, he would basically be saying, everyone shut up. They fly charter. It's a beautiful plane. I don't want to hear anything about complaining. And then he would tell me that, do you know how we used to travel? So, but just gives you an idea, just the distance that they're going to be traveling. They got a weird kind of, I can't even really understand this one in the schedule. The Lakers, again, this is coming from Mike Trudell on Lakers.com, NBA and Lakers. Lakers nearly have an NFL schedule bye week in the 3rd week of November with only one game between November 15th and the 23rd. They play Utah on the 18th. So it gives you just kind of an idea here of just this random, piece of the schedule where the Lakers only play one game in a span of 8 days. The other thing that I notice here, the longest homestand is 11 days, spanning 5 games, December 24th to January 4th. Lakers get some home cooking around Christmas and around New Year's. And the last thing that I'll just kind of make mention of, and then I want to look at the actual schedule and some matchups that I'm excited about. The only other thing to mention is they're tied for the most nationally televised games in the NBA, which is no surprise. Certainly from that perspective, like, that's no shocker. That's just what the Lakers are. The Lakers are one of those teams that are going to be Obviously in the hunt, they're going to be nationally televised. You got Luka, you got LeBron, and that's just kind of what comes with the territory. So Lakers are, of course, going to be in that mix from that perspective. And, obviously we'll see what happens from there. The actual schedule, the games, the matchups that I'm most looking forward to. If you guys want to chime in on this, feel free to. All the teams in the NBA, you could throw in some Eastern Conference teams as well. To me, I think the ones that I'm always looking forward to is the Western Conference matchups. What team are you most looking forward to seeing the Lakers match up against? A team or two out there that you're really looking forward to seeing the Lakers play? I'll give you mine. I got a couple in mind here that I'm really excited about. The Lakers start out the season against the Golden State Warriors. I don't really care about the Golden State Warriors, but the second game on the schedule for the Lakers is hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves on October 24th on a Friday night. That one, to me, is a really big deal because that's the team that took you out in 5 games. That's not even the team, by the way, that is considered top 3 in the Western Conference. I don't even know if they're considered top 4 in the Western Conference. We'll see what happens. Give Minnesota credit. I'm maybe not giving them as much credit as I should, but that is an early game in the schedule that I want to see how the Lakers respond to Minnesota, because there has to be a little bit of something personal against the Timberwolves. Why wouldn't there be? You're playing Minnesota, a team that took you out in 5, a team that honestly, that game 5 at Crypto was one of the ugliest games I've seen. Minnesota was awful. They couldn't hit a 3 if their life depended on it. If I remember off the top of my head, what'd they shoot? 14, 15% from the 3-point line, and they still beat you. But you supposedly addressed a lot of the needs that you needed against Minnesota and some of these other teams. You now have a big in DeAndre, and Jackson Hayes is now going to be a big off the bench. Maybe Maxi Kleba is going to be a player that can help you. Obviously, you went out and got Marcus Smart. You lost some players as well. Luka looks a lot more fit. Austin Reaves got something to prove. It's just the second game of the season, but I look at that matchup against Minnesota. They play them October 24th. They also play them October 29th at Minnesota. So a home game on the 24th, 5 days later, a road game at Minnesota. I love that matchup for those reasons. Let me just kind of point out a couple other matchups that I'm really looking forward to. November 12th, Lakers are at OKC. You get a chance to compare yourself to the champs, and you get a chance to kind of see what you are, what you're made of. Again, it's a team that is going to be that's the barometer in the NBA right now. I don't care what Houston did, Denver did, Knicks coming back. I don't care what any of these other teams did. Everyone's chasing the Oklahoma City Thunder, so I think that's going to be a good barometer game for the Lakers. December 5th at Boston, that's always a fun game. Obviously, you're on the East Coast. You're playing the Boston Celtics. That's going to be fun. The only other matchups, and I don't need to get into the actual date that I'm really looking forward to, I want to see the Lakers against Denver. I want to see the Lakers against San Antonio just because of Wemby. And I got some curiosity of how the Lakers and the Clippers look against each other. And then the last one I think that is just a kind of a no-brainer as well is the Dallas Mavericks. I think a lot of people are going to look at that as well. All right, let me take a look at some of the comments here, and then we could keep things rolling. But I think that, right out the gate, Lakers are going to have games that will, let's what does it look like? What does it look like against these squads? What does it look like against these teams? What does it mean to go up against a team like this? Is there something personal that's on the line? I think all that stuff will be interesting as the season progresses. All right, let's see what we got here. Would you be surprised if the Lakers lose? I think this is the Minnesota matchup. No, listen, Minnesota's a good team, but you just know how competitive these guys are. You obviously know how competitive JJ Redick is. I think JJ Redick's got something to prove this year. So I think from all that perspective, I think that's going to be interesting. Let's see. 8 straight road games followed by 8 straight home. 8 road and then 8 home. I don't know if I've seen that before. It's a good point. No, that's usually you get like those 6-game road trip, something along those lines. But 8 in a row is that's a healthy amount there. When is that stretch of 8? I'm imagining it's towards. Sure, it's 8. Yeah, that, by the way, if that's what it is, I'm gonna take your word for it. That's obviously a long stint right there. Um, let's see. Mavs, Wolves, Celtics. Those are yours. At least the matchups that you're most looking forward to watch once that schedule comes out, or now that the schedule has come out. So it'll be fun. All right. So just a quick little recap on the schedule here. Obviously nothing shocking or surprising. This is how it works. They're going to play the same teams that they play every single year. But I do think that there's going to be some early matchups early on, specifically against Minnesota. That'll be fun. It's going to be fun to see, especially because the Timberwolves took them out as quick as they did. And there's going to be some curiosity how the Lakers play against them. Okay, we got a number of topics I still obviously want to get into. I want to welcome in our guest as well. Good morning, sir. Trevor Lane. What's up, Trevor?
Hey, Alan. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Just listen, I know it's not really schedule release comes out, and it's more curiosity when you're going to play the teams. There's some more curiosity of, all right, what do some of the back-to-backs look like? What do these long road trips look like? Where's there openings in the schedule where you feel like Lakers can take advantage of, or my gosh, that's a really tough stretch. So it's not like it's anything earth-shattering, but for you, what's kind of your initial thoughts? Schedule comes out, and are there some takeaways for you?
Yeah, I mean, schedule release day is always a big and exciting day for me. I always find, like, from having done this for a long time now, a decade now that I've been covering the Lakers.
Are you 10 years?
I'm 10 years. I'm 10 years this month now. So
Really?
there's the big milestone.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
I'm going into 10.
You're going into 10?
I'm going into 10.
When do you hit 10?
So I'll hit 10 at the end of this upcoming season.
Okay.
So I'm 9 in, and this will be 10.
Okay. So I'm just barely ahead of you.
You're a vet.
That's right. But no. So schedule release, like I always see from the fan side of things, there's interest in it, but I'm always more interested in it than the fans are, and the viewers are in it, and all of that. People are interested in it. I'm very interested in the schedule release. I always love getting to look through and plot out, okay, here's the tough parts, here's the easier parts. This is what my schedule is going to look like. Because obviously it's very tied to that, but I love the schedule release. Look at how many back-to-backs do they have? How many times are they at a rest advantage? How many times are they at a rest disadvantage? All that kind of stuff. But Alan, and I'm sure we'll get into kind of the nitty-gritty of it, but when I looked at this schedule and I went through the whole thing, and I did it live on Lakers Nation yesterday, we went through the entire schedule. We looked at everything that was, from beginning to end, and got my initial reaction. I thought, this isn't so bad. I went in expecting a very, very difficult schedule because it's the Western Conference, and it is that. But I thought that a lot of the challenging, particularly the back-to-backs, the challenging aspects of the schedule were to some degree muted this year. So overall, I was pretty pleased with the way the schedule broke down for the Lakers. Okay,
from a matchup perspective, are there 2-3 teams that kind of stick out to you where you feel like, man, I'd really love to see the Lakers versus this team? And I think it's really tough to gauge how good a team is in the first couple of months. I mean, you could have an idea. Don't get me wrong. I mean, not that I'm not counting the first couple of months of the season, but you'll get a chance to see teams a couple of times, and they get a home game, you get a home game. Was it on a back-to-back? Was it not? There's different ways to kind of look at things. But for you, what are the matchups this upcoming season, probably primarily in the Western Conference, where you're like, yeah, I really would like to see how the Lakers match up against this team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously OKC is, of course, going to be a great test because they are the reigning champs, and getting a look at them, that's always going to be a measuring stick for the Lakers. And they do get an early game against them November 12th. I also look at Dallas as a team because there's going to be so much else going on around that game with the Luka Mavs piece of it, of course, but then also LeBron and Anthony Davis playing against each other, our old friend Max Christie, all the subplots.
Cooper Flag in the mix.
For sure, yeah. Cooper Flag being on the Mavs, and then you add in Just that the Mavs are a team that's going to be trying to make a push up in the Western Conference, that they could be a direct playoff opponent. I think Dallas is a team that's going to be really interesting to watch, especially since the Lakers, they had size issues last season when we look at what happened in the playoffs. And I think the Mavs can present specific size problems for the Lakers to try to solve. So I think it'll be a really good test for the Lakers. That's one. Of course, Minnesota as that kind of that playoff revenge narrative. Can the Lakers get something done there? And if they are going to show improvements this season, that would be the most direct way to do it, is to go out there and show them against the team that beat them in the postseason last year. So I think those are probably OKC, Dallas, Minnesota are probably the big three that I'm really looking forward to in the West. I'm always looking forward to Lakers Nuggets matchups.
I agree.
You know, that's of course going to be a big one, but I think those three probably stand at the top for me: OKC, Dallas, and Minnesota.
Okay, so as part of the news yesterday, and I'm sure you got this as well. You know, for those who don't know, we'll get an email from the Lakers public relations that we'll get the email first, and it's kind of like, all right, hey, this went to some of the media outlets, it went to some of the people that cover the team. Go ahead and put it out. And we got that yesterday. And immediately, you know, I'm reading through this, and I'm just assuming it's just about the Lakers schedule. What was also in there, which, you know, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure why I'm this excited about it, but I really, really am. Pat Riley is getting a statue, and they're unveiling the statue on February 22nd when the Lakers are playing the Boston Celtics, of course, at Crypto.com Arena. Pat Riley, you know, obviously a key piece to the Lakers in the Showtime era, won 5 NBA championships. He was the head coach for 4 of those titles, came in for the Lakers. And, you know, listen, he's a legend in the game, and he could be a legend for many different reasons. But how Laker fans, how they appreciate Pat Riley is when he was on the sidelines as the head coach for the Lakers and really just kind of added this. It was as Showtime as it gets. Your coach matched the market, matched the big time presence, all that stuff. What kind of went through your head when you saw that Pat Riley's getting a statue?
So, I mean, the first thing that went through my head was we should be doing this tomorrow, or we should be doing this next week, or something, because the schedule getting released was going to just eclipse everything else. And so there was going to be so much. I wanted to be able to just pay attention to that. But nonetheless, that's a minor quibble. I thought
but can I say this, Trev?
Yeah.
I think that just shows the respect that you have for Pat Riley, and that you don't want this to be, hey, here's the Lakers full released, and then, you know, underneath that it says, and by the way, Pat Riley is getting a statue.
Exactly.
You know, I think there was shock to it for me. I was just like, oh, like that. And I think exactly what you're referring to there, that's probably why you feel the way you did. No. Put this out on August 21st, 22nd.
Yeah.
So then we can all kind of really spend some time on it. And that, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, that's what I would have preferred with it. But you know, Pat Riley, obviously a big part of the Showtime era, the coach during the Showtime era that changed not just the Lakers, not just the organization, but changed the NBA. I mean, changed the way that the league is looked at, changed the standing that the NBA is on the world stage. And so very, very deserving. I'm excited for this. I'm glad that they're going to do it against the Celtics, because we all remember those playoff battles against Boston and during the Showtime era and everything. But I'm excited for Pat Riley to have a statue again. Very, very well deserved, of course, going from a commentator to being an assistant coach and then the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, even if it was maybe a little weird the way they made that transition to that infamous press conference with Dr. Buss. And is he the coach? Is he not? Is he an offensive coordinator or whatever it was that they called him? But ultimately, Pat Riley, an absolute legend of the sport, a legend as a Laker, and very, very deserving of a statue. And I'm very excited for that. And even, I don't know if you guys can see it here on camera, but Studio Stu checking in to celebrate Pat Riley as well.
There you go, Studio Stu. Get in there, Studio Stu. Okay, so, you know, I'm assuming this, and you know how it's kind of funny how you were saying, because I think the first thing that you mentioned was the right thing, where it's like, hey, I want to give this person his credit, his due, give him his own day. I tweeted something out yesterday, and somebody said something that I'm like, yeah, that's the right perspective. But the first thing that went through my mind when I saw Pat Riley's getting a statue it was like, cool. So when's Phil getting his statue, right? Like, okay, well,
Yeah.
obviously he's next. If you're doing Pat Riley, you're also doing Phil Jackson. I don't even know. I don't even think that's a question. I think that will just come.
Yeah.
What is your take on kind of the world of statues in front of crypto.com arena? Because it's interesting, because if you're just, I don't know really what the criteria is anymore. These are obviously all legends.
Mm-hmm.
But if I asked you the question of, hey, should LeBron get a statue, or will Anthony Davis get a statue? Why is James Worthy not have a statue?
Right.
Like, where are you on that? Because I think that has become a interesting conversation where people are maybe a lot more passionate about it than they need to be. If you ask me, I think this is what the Lakers are trying to do, and this is what AEG, who owns that whole plaza out there, I think they're just trying to put legends out there. That's kind of the idea and the concept. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be, I don't think, and we'll find out here, just predicated on what they do next. But it's kind of like, all right, well, if you're going to put LeBron out there, then don't you got to put James Worthy out there? There's other legends out there as well that were specific to the Lakers. What's your take on just the statues?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, typically a player, in order to get their number retired by the Lakers, they've got to have
Stu wants in.
Stu is like, I want to be part of this.
Get in
this
there,
conversation.
Stu.
Stu's like, where's my statue, man? But it's hard to define who it is that qualifies for a statue and then who doesn't, right? Like, where do you draw that line? And that's always going to be a topic of conversation. But I think ultimately this is, for the Lakers to do statues makes a lot of sense, especially when we're talking about LA, right? I mean, these are larger than life personalities that should be immortalized. Statues, you got to get them right. I mean, we all saw like the Dwayne Wade statue and everything. Like, that's the challenge, right? They have to be done right, because if they're not right, and we already saw the Lakers had some issues with their Kobe statue that had misspellings and things like that on it. You got to get them right. That's a big thing, but they can be absolutely wonderful, and they give fans something to go and flock to in front of the arena, take pictures in front of, celebrate, all of that. So I really like that they're doing this. I think, given the history, the rich history that this club has, it makes a lot of sense for them to do statues like these. But as far as who qualifies for one, who doesn't, I think you're just looking for those people that really changed the franchise, changed the game. When we're talking about guys like Kareem, obviously Chick Hearn, right? Magic Johnson and Shaq and on and on. Of course, the Kobe's getting 3 statues. So that's really what you're looking for, is people who have significantly changed in a positive way the franchise moving forward. And there will always be debate about if this person gets one, should another person. But the bottom line is, we want to celebrate those incredible figures that have graced a very, very fortunate fan base here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it is kind of our first instinct, and it's the first instinct that I had. It's like, well, if he gets one, then you better give this guy one. And maybe that's just kind of the culture we live in, and you're just like,
yeah.
I think no matter what anybody does, if Worthy gets one, then do you now start saying, okay, well, does that open the door for some other players? And I don't have the answer for that. If LeBron got one, is LeBron getting one because just his time with the Lakers, or is LeBron getting one because he rocked the Laker jersey for at least 8 years, helped you win a championship, and he's one of the greatest to ever play the game?
Right.
Did it also have, how much does that come into play, that they want LeBron representing also the franchise in front of that arena? Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch here. I've seen this before, and I think this is a no-brainer. Dr. Jerry Buss needs a statue. Yeah,
100%.
I have to figure here, maybe there is a reason why he doesn't have one. And what I mean by that is, I don't know, maybe a personal thing. Maybe he didn't want one. I have no idea. But of all the names that we just mentioned, there really is no Lakers the way we see the Lakers since 1979 without Dr. Jerry Buss, period. Like, there's just no conversation to be had. So I'm with you on that's kind of a no-brainer there. But yeah, we'll see. The conversation will continue. We don't need to do does LeBron deserve a statue today? But anytime a statue comes up, that conversation comes up.
And that will pivot to, if LeBron gets one, then does AD get one because he also won a championship with the team during that time? I mean that can of course go
And
on
then
and on
just
and
and
on.
then just KCP get one, you know?
Sure, right? I think the one thing that we can say for sure, because people can debate whether or not, does LeBron get a statue? Does AD get a statue? What does all that look like? I think LeBron gets his jersey retired, and Anthony Davis probably does as well. What is it, 5 years after they stop playing? I think that will definitely happen. Statues, I think that's the other thing that we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Again, if it is LeBron out there, there's part of this that's also going to be just his career in the league,
Yeah.
the legendary status that he is. And listen, but when this year's over, he's going to have played 8 years for the Lakers. I mean, that's I think the longest stretch he's played with one team. So
More consecutive years with the Lakers than any other team, including the Cavs, and that's something, man. That's something.
You and I have had this conversation before, and I don't think it's too much of a shock or anything along those lines. But the chatter about Austin Reaves and making 30 million and 30 million plus and everything else. I want to focus on one thing with you, that what needs to happen in order for, because you and I, you invited me on one of your shows at Lakers Nation. And a lot of our conversation, I think one of the things you mentioned to me was the energy that you were getting from Laker fans was like, hold up, everybody, 30 million plus. He's not good with Luka, this, that. What needs to happen this year in order for you think that noise to quiet down and for more people to be kind of coming out and saying, guys, Reaves is worth 30 plus, whatever that is. And he's also the right player for the Lakers. Maybe it doesn't have to be a no doubter, but what do you think needs to happen this year with Austin Reaves, where more Laker fans are not only open to the idea, comfortable with the idea, and it's like, yeah, make sure you hurry up and sign this guy because he's a key piece to this team and their future?
I think that strategically, it's fair to have questions and concerns about what Austin Reaves is as a Laker, and if he makes sense to be the guy that you're going to allocate those kind of resources towards. I think it's fair to, from a roster building perspective, to question, would we be better off having Austin Reaves on the team at 30 plus million, or would you be better off going a different direction and dividing that money up between, say, 2 players or something like that, particularly given the cap flexibility that the Lakers may indeed wind up having next summer? I think it's fair to have those concerns. The one thing that these conversations unfortunately can devolve into is just absolutely beating a player down in terms of their overall quality. And we've seen, it's been unfortunate. We've seen a lot of that this summer and I don't know that it's all necessarily Lakers fans, but there is this, it's almost, maybe it's good in a way, because it's almost like the expectations are that Austin Reaves is just this terrible basketball player. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're completely forgetting the 95% of last season and what he was for this Lakers team, and focus just on those 5 games in the playoffs, in which he will even admit he was terrible. He was not good in the playoffs at all. And there are a number of fans who say, then that's it. That's all that matters. The rest of the season does not matter at all. And all that matters is he was bad in the playoffs. Therefore, get him off my team, punt him away, throw him into the sun, get this guy out, right? I've seen a number of takes like that. I think that's way too extreme. I think it's fair to have questions about the roster building. I think it's fair to have questions about the ultimate fit with Luka. But I do think there is a decent and very vocal group of fans that has forgotten how good he really was, and how many times Austin Reaves took over a game and made big plays for the Lakers down the stretch to help them win games. But in order to quiet those concerns, and again, I think there are legitimate concerns that can be pointed to. I just think we've maybe gone a little too far with it. But to quiet those concerns, I think you need to see clear and obvious success with Austin and Luka on the floor together. And that's going to mean defensive improvement from both of them. In order for that to work out, you're going to need to see, because the plays that people tend to gravitate towards with Austin and point to it as as evidence that he cannot work with Luka are the plays where he gets isolated defensively. And even if the numbers may say, there are certain matchups that aren't as bad as people may think in that situation, but I think Austin having success against some of the better scorers in the NBA when he gets put on an island defensively, I think that is an important factor as well. Can he see growth on that side of the game without taking a step back with his offensive output? And then if we look at the advanced numbers, Austin and Luka as a pairing, it's actually very, very good last year. Does that continue? Do we continue to see that success? But ultimately, what will make or break Austin with Lakers fans cannot be proven until the end of next season. We're talking about the playoffs. Austin's got to be big in the playoffs. And if he does that, the things he does during the regular season, that will help. If he steps on the floor and he's good and he's hyper efficient offensively and the defense clearly takes a step forward, that will get fans back on board, of course. But there will always be, for the entire season, there will be that segment of the fan base that will say, I don't care, playoffs. I don't care, playoffs, because there's a very loud anti-Reaves group out there. And he has to prove. And if he proves it in the playoffs, then that will quiet everybody. If he doesn't, then that will be taken as evidence. See, he cannot succeed in the playoffs. You cannot sign him. You need to get him off this team. So it's going to be a fascinating season, I think, watching Austin Reaves and seeing how he adjusts to this environment, because I think a lot of people are super excited about Austin on a $14 million contract. That's not true when we're talking about 30 million plus. And there is some sticker shock wrapped up in that. There is some, the cap goes up and there's questions about what the value should be on players. And that can be, a little bit unclear, but ultimately Austin's going to have to prove it during the season. But the big stage, it's going to be the playoffs. And if he proves it there, that's what ultimately I think will get everybody on board to say, okay, he's worth it.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not as concerned about Austin Reaves as maybe some other people are. I think he's proved every single year that he's valuable. I think the thing that's lost in the playoffs, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for Austin Reaves, but I think that the thing that stood out to me the most is, in order for Austin Reaves to be successful on the Lakers with this team and with this roster, all the other pieces got to fit. And there was nothing about the playoffs where the pieces fit. And there was nothing about the matchup where you felt like, hey, do the Lakers have enough defense behind Luka and Austin Reaves? The answer was no. Do the Lakers have enough size behind Luka and Austin Reaves? The answer was no. Do the Lakers have enough rebounding behind those two players? The answer was no. So I think for Austin Reaves to have the amount of success, the potential that he has with the Lakers and with Luka, the other pieces really, really have to fit.
Yes.
And I don't care how good your quarterback is. If you don't have an offensive line, you're not giving him any time, he's not going to look all that good. Or if you don't have, a good running back that is a threat, that at least the defense has got to hesitate whether you're handing the ball off or you're not, it's going to affect your quarterback. And I just say that because I think there were times where Reaves was exposed. There were times where Luka was exposed. And I think in order for the Lakers to really get the most value out of Austin Reaves, I think they'll get the value out of Luka. That's going to obviously come. But to get the most value, you got to have a center. You got to have a power forward. You got to have wings. You got to have – it's just that's kind of the nature of the NBA. And unfortunately for the Lakers, yes, on the surface, Reaves and Luka, that's not the perfect complement of players, but it doesn't mean it can't work. It just means all the other pieces really got to make sense. And that's obviously going to be up to the Lakers front office. I think the piece about the 30 million plus, Trev, wouldn't you be surprised if he did not get a contract in the NBA, whether it's with the Lakers or somebody else, and it wasn't close to that 30 million range? I think the sticker shock of the 30 million is less surprising to me. Is that a number that's surprising to you, or do you feel like that is his market?
It's not, but I also, again, as somebody who's been saying all summer, the Lakers need to be more open to trading Austin Reaves this summer and into this season, simply because of the contractual situation, that there is the possibility that you could lose him for nothing, even though he has said everything you would want him to say about being a Laker for life and staying in LA, and the Lakers love him, of course, and all of that.
If he leaves, I really think that's primarily more because of the decision of the Lakers, not necessarily Austin Reaves.
Yeah, I do believe he wants to stay. He wants to be a Laker. I don't think he's looking to leave, but that is, a decent amount of salary that's going to be coming onto the books if you do sign him at that. I'm not surprised at the number, but I'll also say that it's a number that even for me, who's trying to be very, I'm not trying to be all in on the Lakers should sign Austin or the Lakers shouldn't sign Austin. I think all of that's going to be decided this coming season. But if that's the number, when you look around the NBA, there's a number of teams who have signed players to that size contract that, while they may not admit it publicly, I think have regretted that. When we're talking about the Emmanuel Quickleys of the world, right? Like that level, that tier of player, that guy is just below an all-star level player. Those guys taking up a significant chunk of cap, particularly in today's NBA, where you need depth more than ever. You could question, would we be better off having like two mid-level exception level players? Would that be the better path for building? And then we've got a deeper team. What does that mean for the rest of the roster? There's, in a vacuum, is Austin Reaves worth that in today's NBA? Yes, I think so. And I think when you look at his peers, you could certainly argue that. I mean, he was 26-5 or so last season. I mean, this is a guy that had a phenomenal year. We'll see what he's going to do this coming season. Like I said, a lot of it is still up in the air, and that's not just for Austin. That's a number of players on the Lakers roster. They're going to be proving things this year. But from a roster building perspective, the scary part for me on that number is what else it might mean down your roster in terms of your depth and what level Austin would have to compete at in order to justify that from a roster building perspective and an opportunity cost perspective. So that's what I'm excited to see, because I think that it is still up in the air what this is going to look like, what this next contract can look like, what is Austin's fit with Luka. And this is just one of many, many questions that we're going to get the answers to with the Lakers this season. All of it's going to have to play out for everybody who is dead set. Austin is worth this money. Austin is not worth this money. What people think right now will not ultimately determine where this goes. What's going to matter is what we think hopefully in June.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of it. And you and I talked about this when we were doing your show. The beauty for the Lakers is they don't have to make a decision on August 15th about him. They also don't have to make a decision by December 1st. Yep. What's it look like by January 1st? What's it look like by February 1st? I think that they have time to make a decision. I mean, listen, I would, if I'm being completely honest with you, I would be a little surprised if they traded Austin Reaves before the trade deadline. But they have time to see, does this work? Does it not work? Or maybe the bigger question, how can we make this work with both of these players? And if LeBron's contract's not there and this player stepped in, like they could also envision a way to make it work, but they got a little bit of time to figure that one out. Trevor, I'm curious, as you look at dust has settled and, now we're really kind of at the point of the off season where it's all going to be about just getting towards training camp. Training camp starts. Now we're going to start hearing from the players and the coaches, and we'll start getting a little bit closer to seeing what this team is. You see where they sit today. You see the offseason acquisitions that they made. Where do you see the Lakers in just the Western Conference as a whole? As you look at the West, we know how competitive it is. We know that the champs are coming out of the Western Conference. Other teams made moves. What do you make of the Lakers in the West as a whole?
So I do think that the Lakers are in that second tier of teams where I have OKC, Houston, and Denver at the top of the Western Conference. And you could say that OKC should be in a tier of themselves, but I've got OKC, Houston, and Denver. I think they had the best summers. Obviously, OKC is the reigning champ, but Houston and Denver I thought had great summers getting Kevin Durant. Get the pieces that Denver brought in, like they had phenomenal summers. So I've got a separate tier for those teams. After that, I've got.
I'll just add one thing here real quick. Listen, I think OKC is going to be better than they were this past season because of the experience. I really do. I think there's going to be something kind of off their shoulders, more and more experience. But don't forget, Denver took them to 7, and I do think their roster this upcoming year will be better than the roster that they had last year. And also don't forget that I think the Houston, if I'm right, Ryan Hollins used to play in the NBA, now does TV for the Houston Rockets. Mm-hmm. He was telling me something. He was on the show telling me something. I want to say they went 2-2 against each other, them and OKC, that those matchups were really, really good matchups. Yeah. So I just say that because I do think Denver and Houston got better. And I do think they match up well against OKC. So I think that's I like those three being in that tier. Yes.
Yeah, I've got those three as being, I think, the teams that everybody's going to be chasing down in the Western Conference. I have the Lakers in that next tier of teams that are fighting for that fourth seed. Now the West is so close, who knows, where that could land. But they're in there with the Warriors, the Mavs, the Clippers, right? You've got a number of teams that are in that kind of next tier. Perhaps the San Antonio Spurs, some people are putting up there, some are not. The Minnesota Timberwolves certainly are in there. The Lakers are in that group fighting for the 4 seed. And as we saw last year, the Lakers were the 3 seed, but they were, 2 games, I think, out of the 8 seed. Like, the West is going to be, once again, so ridiculously close. It could come down to, Alan, the standings could ultimately be determined by one dude tweaks his ankle a little bit and misses a couple of games, and that could completely change the standings in the West. That's how close it's going to be. There's going to be no margin for error. It's going to be, I think, a tight race all the way through. But I do have the Lakers, as we sit here in August, being in that second tier group, competing for the 4 seed. But that could go, you could have them have a quality season. You could have them on the court play just as well as they did last year, if not better, and still wind up being like the 8 seed in the Western Conference, because the records are all going to be that close. So I think that's one of the things we have to keep in mind when we're looking at this coming season is, yes, they were the 3 seed last year. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, because of the way the conference is stacking up, if they finish as the 5th seed, was this season worse than last season? No, they could be a better basketball team this season than they were last season and not finish higher than they did last year because of the state of the Western Conference. So I think that's an important lens that we're going to have to look through here. I don't think we could fall back on the knee-jerk reaction of anything below 3 seed means you took a step back. Anything above 3 seed means you took a step forward. I think with the parity we're seeing in the NBA right now, you can make a run from just about any draft spot. And so the focus needs to be not so much just on the standings are obviously important, but the focus needs to be on, did they actually improve as a basketball team? Are they now more dangerous in the playoffs? And then kind of let the standings fall where they may.
Yeah, do standings even matter? Got spanked last season, number 3 seed. It's funny because this is always a conversation during the season. Does home court really matter? I think it does matter to certain teams, certain franchises. I think for the Lakers, there's going to continue to be, and we're not accustomed to this because last season, Lakers were hosting a playoff game. I think we said for the first time since like 2012, 2013. The bubble, obviously, they would have been hosting a playoff game, but that was in Orlando. So it had been years since they hosted a playoff game. And we just kind of got accustomed to either not making the playoffs or starting on the road or being in the play-in tournament or whatever the case is, right? The play-in it almost became the Lakers' real estate there. But I think the mentality has shifted a little bit. I think they really did want home court. I think there was, a real push towards the end of that season. Did it pay off? It didn't pay off, but I think that had more to do with just kind of the roster, the roster that they had more than anything else. Trev, I appreciate it, buddy. I know we'll have, I know it's going to be, what do we got? About a month and a half, probably, usually that first week of October is when training camp starts. So we got a little bit of time between then. I know you're going to keep cranking out some content. We'll have some Euro basket going on as well with Luka and some of these other NBA European players. But as always, brother, I appreciate you taking the time and joining the channel.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Alan. Always fun to talk Lakers basketball with you.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. Trevor Lane right there. Yeah, it's one of the things that I kind of pay closer attention to as far as the seedings go and the standings go and everything else. I'm just curious how the team's playing. That's it. I mean, just, I think as we look at the Western Conference, each one of these games every single night is going to be an important game. It's going to be a key game. And I'm sure there's going to be times I'm doing a post-game show and people are sitting back and saying, yeah, that's it. It's the end of the world. Or Lakers win a big game on the road. It's like, that's it. Lakers are going to win a championship. There's so much emotion from game to game. That's just kind of the territory of the NBA. It's the territory of probably you could say Laker fans, not even just Laker fans. I think fans in general, that's how it is. It doesn't even matter what sport it is as well. You just kind of live game to game. And You're on your high or you're on your low. One of the two is happening after every single night. But home court for the Lakers, obviously what they were able to accomplish, a number 3. I'd be surprised if they're top 3 again in the West, to be honest with you. I think the way that Trev just broke it down, just that tier, I do agree. The top 3 teams in the Western Conference, and there's always going to be surprises and changes, and teams that you think weren't going to be good that are better than you thought. Teams that you thought were going to be good are worse than you thought. But I do think that that kind of that top 3 tier in the Western Conference. Yeah, I'm with them. OKC, Denver, and the Houston Rockets. All right, let's take a look at a few of your comments, and then I got a few other topics that I want to get into as well. Let's see what we got here. Get it? You're not AR fans. Why bother rooting against players on the team you support? He has improved every season. As long as he's a Laker, we should want him to play well. The AR conversation, there are certain conversations around the Lakers that are really polarizing. Let me give you a couple of them. I think the conversation around LeBron, I think there's some Laker fans that are just whatever LeBron does, they don't want to give him any credit for. Then I think there's Lakers/LeBron fans, probably more primarily Bron fans, that the guy's never made a mistake in his life. That's always a polarizing conversation in itself, and it kind of dominated, to be honest with you, some of our headlines right in the offseason, right as free agency started for a couple of weeks. The other most polarizing conversation around the Lakers is Austin Reaves. What do they do with him? Is this guy good enough to really pay? Do you want to see him under a long-term contract with the Lakers? He is the most interesting conversation on the Lakers, I think, from this point moving forward. Maybe he wants to be a Laker for life. I talked a little bit about it, and I'll get into it because I know there were some comments about it, and then I'll give my thoughts on it as well. What does Austin Reaves have to do this upcoming season to make the doubters say, no, he's the right player for the Lakers? No, he should be a Laker long-term. What needs to happen what does Austin Reaves have to do individually for people to feel more comfortable with, yep, Lakers are signing him to $30 million a year, and you know what? I'm okay with that. I really actually think, some of this he's going to be able to control, but I think a lot of this is also going to just be controlled by what does it look like with the rest of the team and the squad? How does it fit? How much does it help that they have a true center now? How much does it help that they have other players that kind of complement from a defensive perspective? There's a lot that's going to come into play. And, I can't answer all these questions for you, but he's a big conversation. He's a big conversation. And I will say it's probably 3 to 4 to 1 now. For every 3 comments I see that are I'm getting 3 negative comments about Reaves before I get 1 positive. Something like that. That's probably what that number is. Or maybe that's just my feeling of it. Maybe it's really less than that, but that's kind of the feeling that I have right now. And I think Trev said something that was important. I think the fact that Trevor basically said, listen, at the end of the day, you just got to deliver in the playoffs. It almost doesn't even matter. I saw a comment earlier, and I won't be able to go back and find it right now, but somebody had said something. He could average 14 points in the regular season, but if his game stepped up in the playoffs, then everyone would be complimenting him. The problem was it was switched. Played really well in the regular season, didn't come through, wasn't consistent enough, and just didn't have a good postseason. I think that's what a lot of people are remembering right now. All right, we'll take a look at some more of these comments. Let's see. Why are we trying to plug a square peg in a round hole? If what you mean by that is they just don't fit, as in the Luka and Austin Reaves fit, maybe I think that's what you're referring to. AR needs to find his place with Luka like he did with LeBron. He has improved and adapted in the past. I don't see why he can't do so again. Last year was inherently messy and stress. Need a clean run. And I go back to this. I just don't think that was all on Austin Reaves. I think there has been a little bit too much of, hey, they didn't play good. Neither did Austin Reaves. This is all on Austin Reaves. Lakers lost in 5 games against the Minnesota Timberwolves for a number of reasons. Austin Reaves was one of those reasons. He wasn't everything. He wasn't the only reason. All right, let's get another one here. I can answer the question, but it has to do with him in the playoffs, not regular season. Same with D'Lo, and I'm not comparing it, but he was great for us in regular season. Playoffs, not so much. Yeah, that's. I think D'Lo. I would have Austin Reaves. Rather have Austin Reaves all day long over D'Angelo Russell all day long. Not even close. Not even a conversation. That's my specific opinion there. I think Austin Reaves was more reliable. I think he's got more upside. But D'Lo not performing in the playoffs was no question about it his downfall, because every time we walked into a series, and especially against the Denver Nuggets, it was like, hey, they really, really need D'Lo to step up, and he was awful for the Lakers. So I think that's a that's a fair observation, that what you do in the postseason also has a lot to do with how people are going to remember you, especially if you came in with expectations, you were a number 3 seed, you had 50 wins, and there was a lot obviously riding on that, and the Lakers were not able to deliver. All right, let's keep things moving here. I got a few other things here that I want to do. Just one quick thing that I'm going to hit on the statue stuff. Pat Riley getting a statue is badass. Pat Riley getting a statue when the Lakers are going to play the Boston Celtics, phenomenal. I'm excited about that. Just the other quick piece of this, Phil Jackson's eventually going to get a statue. Of course, he deserves it. What other Lakers will get a statue? And I saw some people when I was talking to Trevor about it. I think honestly, I think LeBron will eventually get a statue, and I don't think it's going to be just about his time with the Lakers. I think it's going to be his time and his moments in the NBA, and that he will be top 2, top 3 player to ever play the game. And I think they want that representation in a Lakers jersey in front of crypto. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm not even here to tell you whether that's right or wrong, but I think that it's more to do with his resume of 23 years in the NBA, and 8 of those years being with the Lakers. And I'm not even sure if he's only going to play 23. Maybe he plays another 2-3 years. We don't have that answer. Nobody has that answer but LeBron. And maybe he still doesn't even know. But the statue piece, I think there is something about the statues that's not just about, your resume as a Laker. If LeBron gets a statue, it's not just about your resume as a Laker, because I think you can make cases for guys like James Worthy and some of these other players that were a part of Laker championships. Hell, you probably make a case for Pau Gasol if you want to make a case. Obviously, he was key to 2 NBA championships. So we'll see what happens. That we'll save that conversation and that argument for another day, because I know it will probably be an argument for another day. Okay. Last couple things here that I want to mention. I saw this comment as well. Where would AR play if he was on OKC? 7th, 8th man off the bench. The only thing I'll say about that with the AR piece, which you're probably not wrong on that, I think he would come off the bench, and what would his value be to them? But the Oklahoma City Thunder have a really complete team. The Lakers don't. So I think that's part of the reason too that things get magnified on Austin Reaves' shoulders, because there really wasn't too many players that you can turn to on a consistent basis. Where I think with the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's a bad example just because they got so much and they got so much depth. Maybe that goes back to Trevor Lane's point of that's what would be his concern with a $30 million contract, is how much depth does that take away from that perspective. All right. Final thing I want to do here on the show today. I'll read a few more comments here before we get out of here. I know a lot of people are kind of chiming in with some comments. We do have the weekend preview that I want to highlight here real quick. Weekend preview, of course, presented by the Wallace Firm. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Just a phenomenal partner of the channel and the show. So really appreciate his partnership. Injury attorney, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. If you have an issue, a serious injury, a wrongful death case, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Shout out to our listeners too, because people have reached out to them and are asking for his legal advice. So I really appreciate you guys, obviously taking the message, you're in a situation of predicament, and then trusting that he can help. Okay, weekend preview. Couple things going on. Let me just start off from a baseball perspective. Really, really big series starting tonight, and it's actually going to be in LA. The Padres and the Dodgers. So at one point, the Dodgers had a really comfortable lead in the division, and they have played below 500 over this last, call it 40, 45 days. And the Padres have played really well over these last 45 days. So the Padres have been able to make up a lot of ground against the Dodgers. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch because the Dodgers are still the Dodgers, period. And they still got all the talent in the world. And eventually they're going to turn things around. They've already beat the Padres 5 out of the first 7 games they've played against each other this season. The only difference I would say is the Padres made a lot of changes at the trade deadline. So the question's really just going to come down to it's not the same team that the Padres have been earlier in the year. And how does it match up against the Dodgers? I don't know. I really don't. I know the Dodgers are as talented as any squad out there. They're the most talented team in baseball. They are the defending champs. And the Padres are trying to kind of wiggle their way into NL West and winning the division. It's going to be a dogfight. So we'll see what happens. But a 3-game set, unfortunately for the Padres. Michael King was going to start. He's now not starting. He's on the IL, some knee inflammation. So it's undecided. I don't even know who's starting. Maybe they'll bring up Ryan Vasquez. I think it's Ryan Vasquez. Maybe they'll bring up another starter that they've had that's kind of been back and forth from AAA. But bottom line, Dodgers and the Padres play 6 times over the course of, I think, the next 10 games or something like that, 10 days. So it should be a really, really good matchup. Man, the NL is just so clogged. Look at the NL West, not even the NL West, the NL standings. The Padres, the Phillies, the Cubs, and the Dodgers, 4 teams all separated by 1 game in the National League. So that should be a good battle here down the stretch. We'll see what happens. Nerve-wracking, man. These freaking games. Baseball is a freaking nerve-wracking sport. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. Last thing here, NFL schedule. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not watching any of the preseason. I'll wait till the regular season starts, and we're still a couple of weeks away until that happens. All right, let me read a couple of comments here, and then we're going to call it a day. I'm going to give everyone a quick idea here what is going on. So I'm going to take a couple of weeks off. I'm going to take the rest of August off. I'll tell you guys really why I'm doing it. I'm going to try to kind of reset a little bit myself. There's some things that I'm working on behind the scenes as well. And, I've said this from the beginning. One of the things I don't want to do is force content. And we're just at the point of the calendar where if there's a time to take off, this is the time. So I am definitely going to try to take advantage of that. So basically, the final couple weeks of August, I'm going to take off. I'm going to come back after Labor Day. And then we're going to, obviously re-game plan from there. The whole goal of the channel is to really, really deliver as we get into, kind of the primary months. And that's coming up here. We're not too far from that. But, August or October 1st is when I started going full-time on the channel. And that's when training camp started. So, from that point on, it's from August 1st to July 31st, it's just this full sprint. So we're going to continue to do that to July 31st. So to August 1st, you can call it. This is still, I haven't kind of been 1 year fully on the channel Monday through Friday. So I'm still kind of learning all right, what are things I want to focus on? What are things I don't? So just to give everyone a quick idea, we're going to take a couple weeks off the channel. I'm going to come back after Labor Day, and then we'll keep things rolling. It doesn't mean that I might not have it doesn't mean that I might not come on live occasionally. It doesn't mean I might do some separate podcasts and throw them up. But just to give you an idea, the Monday through Friday for right now, it's going to be definitely going to be a little bit off from that perspective for the next couple of weeks. Most likely not going to be doing any live shows, or at least no planned live shows. It doesn't mean I won't eventually do that. Can't believe you're a Padre. Yeah, I'm from San Diego. All my affiliations are San Diego based, except the Lakers. Lakers are the team I grew up watching, and They used to play preseason games. You'd be surprised. A lot of Laker fans in San Diego. But you also got to understand the Laker brand. I know it's in LA, but it's an international brand. Use this channel as an example. When I do roll call, everybody that's on here, people are from everywhere. That's the power of the Laker brand. So yes, a Padres fan and a sweating Padres fan. Freaking all these games are freaking stressful. All right. Let me see if I could get a couple more of these here. I've been saying AR off the bench at 25 minutes with higher shooting efficiency and ball in hand would be fire. Yeah, I think then just comes the question, if that's the case, are you paying $30 million a year for that type of player and that type of role? So I think all of that is a fair question here. Let's see. Reaves will be a role player. Too much talk about a role player. Well, they need him to be more than a role player, to be honest with you, just based on the talent that they have. All right, let me see if I can get a let's see if I could get another one here. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, I think that's all we got. My people, thank you very much. Thank you for this long grind that we've been a part of. I appreciate you guys continuing to come on the show, continuing to come on the channel. Please continue to support the channel by subscribing to the channel. And thank you for being here. So thank you for being a part of the show. I will see you guys after Labor Day. So a couple weeks off of the channel. After Labor Day, we'll come back and we'll regroup. I'll be in touch one way or the other, and we'll go from there. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Trevor Lane for joining the show as well. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, your weekend, and the great rest of August as well. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your summer.